I secretly wash my roommate's mug every night. Then she found my Reddit post. Hey everyone, welcome back to Reddit Bit. Can you believe a simple coffee mug changed two people's lives forever? This story will make you question everything you thought you knew about the people you live with. Could your roommate be harboring secret feelings? Would you find it sweet or creepy if someone was doing something like this behind your back? Let's dive in. I never thought a coffee mug would change my life. But that's exactly what happened. Meet Ryan Mitchell, a 31-year-old music producer living in Nashville, Tennessee. With his slightly messy brown hair and tendency to wear the same three-band t-shirts on rotation, Ryan was what most people would call a creative type. He spent his days in recording studios helping indie artists find their sound, and his nights either mixing tracks or hanging out with friends at local dive bars. Ryan had been sharing an apartment with his friend Emma Parker for almost 2 years. Emma, 29, was a children's book illustrator whose colorful artwork and equally vibrant personality had made her a favorite among Nashville's creative community. With her curly auburn hair often pulled into a messy bun and paint-splattered overalls, she was the perfect contrast to Ryan's more laid-back vibe. They'd met through mutual friends at a benefit concert for a local music school. Their friend Tyler was the one who suggested they might make good roommates when Ryan mentioned needing a new place. Emma's looking for someone to split rent, Tyler had said. Her last roommate moved in with her boyfriend, and she's got this awesome 2-bedroom in East Nashville. Ryan had been skeptical at first. I don't know, man. Living with friends can get complicated. Trust me, Tyler insisted. Emma's the easiest person to live with. Plus, she makes these incredible cookies that will change your life. The cookies were indeed life-changing, and the apartment was perfect. Exposed brick walls, hardwood floors, and walking distance to Ryan's favorite coffee shop. After a slightly awkward roommate interview, where they discussed cleaning schedules and overnight guest policies, they decided to give it a shot. 2 years later, it was the best living situation Ryan had ever had. They respected each other's space, shared the occasional meal, and had movie nights where they'd argue good-naturedly about plot holes and character development. Emma would show Ryan her latest illustrations, and he'd let her listen to tracks he was producing. They'd become each other's sounding boards and biggest supporters. But there was one thing about Emma that Ryan found both endearing and slightly baffling: her extensive mug collection. Seriously, it's out of control, Ryan told his friend Jake over beers one night. She has an entire cabinet dedicated to mugs. Christmas mugs, Halloween mugs, mugs with puns, mugs shaped like animals. I think she has more mugs than actual food in our kitchen. What Ryan didn't mention to Jake was that he'd started to notice which mug was Emma's favorite. Among the colorful assortment was a hand-painted ceramic mug with a Captain America shield design. It wasn't the most expensive or even the most beautiful, but whenever it was clean and available, Emma always chose it over the others. One morning, as Ryan was grabbing coffee before heading to the studio, he noticed something that would eventually change everything between them. Emma, still in her pajamas with her hair piled on top of her head, opened the cabinet and spotted her Captain America mug. Her face lit up, and she did this little dance, just a few seconds of happy movement as she reached for it. It wasn't elaborate, just a tiny shimmy and a smile that transformed her entire face. Ryan couldn't help but smile too. There was something so genuine and unguarded about that moment of pure joy over something as simple as a coffee mug. Over the next few weeks, Ryan began to notice a pattern. Emma would use her Captain America mug every morning if it was clean, and she'd always do that little happy dance when she saw it. But he also noticed something else. Emma hated doing dishes. She never complained about it, but he could tell by how she'd let them pile up until she absolutely had to tackle them. I have this weird sensory thing with wet food and dish soap, she explained one night when Ryan found her making faces while cleaning up. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me. They had agreed when Ryan moved in that they'd each be responsible for their own dishes, which seemed fair. But one night, after Emma had gone to bed, Ryan noticed her Captain America mug sitting in the sink with a few other dishes. She'd had a particularly long day, a deadline for a book project that had her working nonstop. Without really thinking about it, Ryan washed her mug, dried it, and put it back in the cabinet. It took all of 2 minutes. The next morning, he was pouring his own coffee when Emma came into the kitchen, opened the cabinet, and spotted her mug. The little dance that followed was even more enthusiastic than usual. She practically bounced as she prepared her coffee, humming a little tune. "You're in a good mood," Ryan commented, trying to sound casual. "I don't know why, but I just feel like today's gonna be great," Emma replied, cradling her mug in both hands. That's how it started. Just a small, simple act of kindness that became Ryan's secret ritual. Every night, no matter how late he got home from the studio, he'd check the sink for the Captain America mug and make sure it was clean for the morning. On days when Emma seemed particularly stressed or down, seeing her light up when she found her mug ready for use made his entire day better. "Why Captain America?" Ryan asked one evening as they were making dinner together. "Out of all your mugs, I mean." Emma smiled, a bit wistfully. "My grandfather gave it to me before he passed away. He was a huge comic book fan, collected them since he was a kid. When I was little, he'd read them to me and do all the different voices. Captain America was his favorite. He said he liked that he was just a regular guy who wanted to do the right thing." Ryan felt a wave of emotion. He'd been washing this mug for weeks without knowing its significance. Somehow, that made his small gesture feel even more important. As months passed, Ryan began to realize his feelings for Emma were changing. He found himself looking forward to coming home, not just because he was tired after a long day at the studio, but because he wanted to see her. He'd catch himself smiling whenever she texted, even if it was just about grocery shopping or utility bills. That he tried to ignore these feelings. Emma was his roommate and friend. They had a good thing going, and he didn't want to complicate it. Plus, she'd never given any indication she thought of him as anything more than a friend. So he kept washing her mug, kept doing the small things that made her smile, and kept his growing feelings to himself, until one night changed everything. It was a Tuesday in November. Ryan had been at the studio all day working with a new artist, and it was nearly midnight when he got home. The apartment was dark except for a small light in the kitchen. He assumed Emma had gone to bed. She usually didn't stay up this late on weeknights. He quietly made his way to the kitchen to grab some water before heading to bed. That's when he saw it, the Captain America mug in the sink, along with a few other dishes. Even after a long day, the sight made him smile. He rolled up his sleeves and started washing it, his back to the kitchen entrance. "So it's been you all this time." Ryan nearly dropped the mug. Spinning around, he found Emma standing in the doorway, wearing pajama pants and an oversized sweatshirt, her hair messy from sleep. She was looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Emma, I thought you were asleep," he stammered, feeling suddenly self-conscious with the mug still in his hands. "I was, but I got thirsty." She took a few steps into the kitchen. "You've been washing my Captain America mug." It wasn't a question, but Ryan nodded anyway. "Yeah, I have." "For how long?" "A few months, I guess." He placed the now clean mug on the drying rack, trying to act casual. "It's not a big deal." "What?" Her voice was soft, curious rather than accusatory. Ryan hesitated. How could he explain without sounding weird? Without revealing too much. "I noticed you always seem happier when you get to use this mug in the morning," he finally said, keeping his eyes on the sink. "And I know you don't like doing dishes, so I just thought it might be a nice thing to do." "You noticed that?" She sounded surprised. "Yeah, you do this little dance when you see it's clean. It's kind of the highlight of my morning." As soon as the words left his mouth, he realized how they sounded. "I mean, not in a creepy way or anything. It's just nice to see you happy." There was a long silence, and Ryan finally looked up at her. Emma was staring at him with wide eyes, her lips slightly parted. That's incredibly sweet, Ryan." He shrugged, embarrassed. "It's just a mug." "No," she said, shaking her head. "It's not just a mug. It's the fact that you noticed something that makes me happy and went out of your way to make sure I had it. That's really thoughtful." "Well, we're friends, right?" "That's what friends do," Ryan said, trying to downplay it. Emma nodded slowly, but something in her expression had changed. "Right? Friends." An awkward silence fell between them. Ryan dried his hands on a dish towel, unsure what to say next. "Why didn't you tell me?" she finally asked. "I don't know. I guess I thought it might make you self-conscious about your happy dance if you knew I was watching." And then, he trailed off. "And then what?" Ryan took a deep breath. "And then it became this little secret that made me happy too. Doing something nice for you without expecting anything in return. It felt good." Emma stepped closer, until she was standing right in front of him. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me, Ryan. Not just washing the mug, but caring enough to notice what makes me happy in the first place. Something about the way she was looking at him made his heart race. For a moment, he thought she might be feeling the same shift he had been experiencing. But then she yawned, breaking the intensity of the moment. I should get back to bed, she said. Early meeting tomorrow with the publisher. Yeah, of course, Ryan replied, relieved and disappointed at the same time. Good night, Emma. Good night, Ryan. She turned to leave, but stopped at the doorway. And thank you for the mug thing. It means a lot. After she left, Ryan stood in the kitchen for a long time, replaying the conversation in his head. Had he said too much? Not enough. He couldn't tell if he'd just made things weird between them or if something new was beginning. The next morning was busy for both of them. Emma rushed out early for her meeting, and Ryan had to be at the studio by 9. They barely crossed paths, just a quick, good morning, as she was heading out the door. He couldn't tell if she was acting different or if he was just hyper-aware of every interaction now. That evening, Ryan got home before Emma. Feeling restless and confused about where they stood, he did something he'd never done before. He went online to ask for advice. He created a throwaway account on Reddit and wrote out the whole story. How he'd been secretly washing his roommate's favorite mug because he loved seeing her happy dance, how she'd caught him, and how he wasn't sure if he'd made things awkward or if there was something more between them. He didn't use their real names, of course. He called himself Mug Washer and referred to Emma as Captain Mug Girl. He described their friendship, their living situation, and the growing feelings he'd been trying to ignore. It felt good to get it all out, to ask strangers if he was being weird or if this could be the start of something more. After posting, he made dinner, enough for two, as had become their habit, and waited for Emma to come home. When she hadn't arrived by 8, he texted to make sure everything was okay. Running late, she replied. Publisher wants last-minute changes to the illustrations. Don't wait up. Ryan ate alone, saved her portion in the fridge, and tried to distract himself with work. Around midnight, he checked his Reddit post and was surprised to see it had blown up, hundreds of comments, most of them encouraging him to tell Captain Mug Girl how he felt. This is the sweetest thing I've ever read, one comment said. If someone cared enough about me to notice something so small and do something so thoughtful, I'd want to know. Another read, Dude, she already knows you've been washing her mug. The hard part is over. Just tell her you like her. Reading through the comments gave Ryan a boost of confidence. Maybe he should just be honest with Emma when she got home. The worst that could happen is she wouldn't feel the same way, and they'd have to navigate some awkwardness. But at least he wouldn't be wondering, what if, anymore, that he was still reading comments when he heard the front door open. Closing his laptop quickly, he got up to greet Emma. She looked exhausted, her shoulders slumped as she dropped her bag by the door. What a day, she sighed. The publisher suddenly decided they wanted the Captain America-inspired character in the story to be more expressive. Whatever that means. A Captain America character, huh? Ryan smiled. Like your mug. Yeah, she said, returning the smile. I actually based the character in the book on that mug. It helps me feel connected to my grandfather while I'm working. Ryan felt a wave of emotion. The mug meant even more to her than he'd realized. I saved you some dinner, he offered. Want me to heat it up? That would be amazing. Thank you. As she ate, they talked about her day, the publisher's demands, and the book she was illustrating. It felt normal, comfortable, no awkwardness from their late-night encounter. Ryan began to think maybe he'd been overthinking everything. After she finished eating, Emma pulled out her phone. By the way, the strangest thing happened today. One of the other illustrators at the publisher sent me a Reddit post that's going viral in the relationship advice community. She thought it sounded exactly like us. Ryan's stomach dropped. What? She held up her phone, showing him the familiar Reddit interface with his post clearly displayed. It's about a guy who secretly washes his roommate's favorite Captain America mug because he likes seeing her do a happy dance when she uses it in the morning. Sound familiar? Ryan felt the blood drain from his face. Emma, I can explain, mug washer, she said, raising an eyebrow. Really? I was confused after last night, and I didn't know who to talk to, and, Ryan, she interrupted, putting her phone down. I'm not mad. He stopped mid-sentence. You're not? No. She took a deep breath. I'm actually glad you posted it. You are. She nodded, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. Because now I know how you really feel. The post wasn't just about washing a mug. It was about how you've been developing feelings for me, but were afraid to say anything because you didn't want to ruin our friendship. Ryan couldn't believe this was happening. His anonymous post had found its way directly to the one person it was about. What were the odds? So, he said cautiously, "Where does that leave us?" Emma stood up and moved to sit next to him on the couch. "That depends. Did you mean what you wrote? About how seeing me happy makes you happy? About how you've been trying to ignore your feelings, but they keep getting stronger?" Ryan looked into her eyes and knew there was no point in hiding anymore. Every word. "Then I think," she said softly, "that we should stop pretending we're just roommates who happen to be friends." "What do you mean?" Instead of answering, she leaned forward and kissed him. It was gentle and brief, but it sent electricity through his entire body. When she pulled back, she was smiling. The same genuine smile he'd seen countless mornings when she found her clean Captain America mug waiting for her. "I've been feeling it too, Ryan," she whispered. "For months now, but I was scared of ruining what we have. Then I caught you washing my mug last night, and I realized how much you pay attention to the little things that make me happy. No one's ever done that before." The transition from roommates to something more wasn't as awkward as Ryan had feared. In many ways, not much changed at first. They still shared meals, watched movies together, and respected each other's work schedules. But now there were also good morning kisses, hand-holding while watching TV, and the freedom to say what they were really feeling. Their friend group was surprisingly unsurprised when they told them. Finally, Tyler exclaimed when they shared the news at their regular Friday night gathering. "We've been watching you two dance around each other for months." "What do you mean?" Emma asked, genuinely confused. Their friend Sophie rolled her eyes. "Please, the way Ryan looks at you when you're not watching? The fact that you guys basically stopped dating other people the minute you moved in together? We had a bet going about when you'd figure it out." "Who won?" Ryan asked, amused. "Technically no one," Tyler admitted. "We all thought it would happen much sooner." They laughed, but the conversation made Ryan think. Had his feelings for Emma been obvious to everyone but him? Had he been subconsciously drawn to her even before the mug-washing ritual began? As their relationship deepened, the story of how they got together became their favorite to tell. The Captain America mug took on an almost mythical status among their friends. Sophie even bought them matching superhero keychains as a joke. But privately, Ryan and Emma knew it wasn't really about the mug. It was about noticing what makes someone else happy and caring enough to contribute to that happiness, even in small ways. It was about the kind of love that shows up in everyday moments, not just grand gestures. About 3 months after they officially started dating, they faced their first real challenge. Emma was offered a dream opportunity, illustrating a major children's book series that would significantly boost her career. The catch? She'd need to spend 6 weeks in London working directly with the author and publisher. "I don't have to take it," she said as they discussed it over dinner. 6 weeks is a long time to be apart." "Are you kidding?" Ryan replied. "Of course you have to take it. This is huge for you. But we just started this relationship. I'm worried about what a separation might do." Ryan reached across the table and took her hand. "Emma, I've been in love with you since before we even admitted our feelings. 6 weeks apart isn't going to change that." Her eyes widened. It was the first time either of them had used the word love. "You love me?" she asked softly. "I do," Ryan said, realizing as he said it how completely true it was. "I love your creativity, your kindness, the way you hum when you draw, your happy dance when you use your Captain America mug. I love all of it. All of you." Tears welled in her eyes. "I love you too, Ryan. So much it scares me sometimes." The night before she left for London, Ryan gave her a gift. A travel mug he'd had custom-made with the same Captain America design as her beloved ceramic one. "So you can still have your morning coffee ritual," he explained as she unwrapped it. "It's not the same, I know, but," she cut him off with a kiss. "It's perfect. And now I'll think of you every morning." Those 6 weeks were harder than Ryan had anticipated. They video called daily, but the time difference made it challenging. Their apartment felt emptier without her creative energy filling the space. He kept washing her Captain America mug even though it sat and used, a ritual that now connected him to her across the distance. The separation also gave Ryan time to work on a special project. Emma had mentioned once that she wished there was a song about their mug story. "It's like something out of a romantic comedy," she'd said. the mug that brought two people together. So Ryan wrote one. He called in favors from musician friends, spent late nights in the studio, and created the Mug Song, a sweet, slightly funny indie track about falling in love through small acts of kindness. When the day finally came for Emma's return, Ryan was a bundle of nerves. He cleaned the apartment, bought her favorite flowers, and prepared a welcome home dinner. The Captain America mug was washed and waiting on the counter, next to a small wrapped package containing a USB drive with the song. The moment she walked through the door, exhausted from travel but beaming at the sight of him, Ryan knew with absolute certainty that what they had was special. She dropped her bags and ran into his arms, and it felt like every love song he'd ever produced suddenly made perfect sense. Over dinner, she shared stories from London, the eccentric author she'd worked with, the beautiful parks she'd sketched in, the ideas she had for her next projects. When it was time for dessert, Ryan handed her the Captain America mug, filled with her favorite hot chocolate. "I've been washing it every day, waiting for you to come home and do your happy dance again," he said. Emma laughed and did an exaggerated version of her dance, nearly spilling the hot chocolate. Then she noticed the small package beside her plate. "What's this?" she asked, picking it up. "Just a little welcome home gift," Ryan said, suddenly nervous. "Open it." She unwrapped the USB drive and looked at him questioningly. "It's a song," he explained. "About us. About the mug." Emma's eyes widened. "You wrote me a song?" "Well, technically I wrote the mug a song," Ryan joked. "You're just featured in it." They listened to it together, Emma curled up against Ryan's side on the couch. When it ended, she had tears in her eyes. "That's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever done for me," she whispered. "Even better than washing your mug?" Ryan asked with a smile. "Well, the mug washing started it all," she said, kissing him softly. "But this is a close second." 6 months later, Ryan and Emma decided it was time for a change. Their lease was coming up for renewal, and they wanted a fresh start. Not as roommates who had fallen in love, but as partners choosing to build a life together. They found a bright, spacious 2-bedroom apartment in East Nashville with big windows and a small balcony. One bedroom became Emma's studio, filled with light and her artwork. Ryan set up a small recording area in the living room corner, with sound-absorbing panels that Emma helped decorate so they'd blend with their dessert in their new kitchen. The Captain America mug had a special place, not hidden away in a cabinet, but displayed on a small shelf along with a matching mug Emma had commissioned for Ryan, painted with music notes and a small Captain America shield in the corner. Every morning, they still had their ritual. Emma would make coffee in her Captain America mug, and Ryan would have his in the music note mug. She still did her happy dance, but now Ryan joined in. Their own private moment of joy before facing the day. Sometimes Ryan thought about how differently things might have turned out if he hadn't noticed her happiness that first morning, or if he hadn't decided to wash that mug, or if she hadn't caught him in the act. So many small moments that led to something extraordinary. They say love is found in grand gestures, in dramatic declarations, and life-changing decisions. But sometimes, it's found in the smallest acts of kindness. In noticing what makes someone else happy and wanting to be a part of that happiness. In washing a mug, night after night, just to see someone dance. And there you have it, folks. What started as Ryan secretly washing Emma's Captain America mug turned into a beautiful love story that none of us saw coming. This story reminds us of something so powerful about love and relationships. Sometimes it's not the grand gestures that matter most, but the small, everyday moments of thoughtfulness. Ryan didn't win Emma's heart with expensive gifts or dramatic declarations. He simply noticed something that brought her joy and quietly contributed to it, without expecting anything in return. How many of us miss these little opportunities to make someone's day better? What makes this story so relatable is how both of them were afraid to risk their friendship by admitting their feelings. Haven't we all been there? That terrifying moment when you realize you've developed feelings for someone close to you, but you're paralyzed by the fear of rejection or ruining what you already have. Sometimes it takes something unexpected, like being caught washing a mug at midnight or discovering your anonymous Reddit post has gone viral, to push us out of our comfort zones and into honesty. And often, that's exactly where the magic happens. I love how their story evolved from roommates to friends to something more. proving that building a relationship on a foundation of friendship and genuine care for each other's happiness can lead to something truly special. What small gestures has someone done for you that made you realize how much they care? Or what tiny acts of kindness have you done for someone special in your life? Share your stories in the comments below. And if you're currently living with roommates and wondering if there might be something more there, pay attention. Is there someone in your life doing small things to make you happy that you might be overlooking? Life is too short not to tell people how you feel about them. So wash that special mug, write that note, or finally have that conversation you've been avoiding. If you enjoyed this heartwarming story, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to catch more incredible relationship stories every day. Until next time, this is Reddit Bit reminding you that sometimes the greatest love stories start with the smallest gestures.